Hey everyone, you're tuned into InfoQuench with Jeff.
And Amy. Join us as we talk about anything.
And everything.
All the stuff that makes life interesting.
So let's get to it. What's up everybody and welcome to InfoQuench. I'm your host Jeff.
And I'm Amy, and this is part 2 of 27 Tips for a Better Life.
27. So what did we end on last time?
Well,
13? Something like that? 14?
16 actually.
16.
So we don't have that many to go through in this episode, so we have a little extra time for our tangents.
Tangents. So we got a little bit of I'm good at tangents, so hopefully I don't go on too many wild ones.
All right. Well, one thing I wanted to mention was that our Instagram account miraculously came back.
We meant to mention that last episode.
We did.
And yes, after it was...
It was late September. All of a sudden, our account was deactivated on Instagram
for no reason, no
apparent reason, and that's the channel where we probably have the largest following.
Yeah.
For our podcast. We're also on Twitter, and we have a Facebook page, so check those out if you don't already follow us there. But yeah, we were deactivated, and there really wasn't a great way to reach out to Instagram to get that back up.
There was no way.
What ended up happening was about 3 months later, I received an email, just a generic email about them updating their terms and conditions. And that email prompted me to try one more time, go through the process of, clicking on different things to, go into their help page, trying to find out why it was deactivated, whatever, I digress. But essentially, they sent me an email where I had to hold up a piece of paper where I'd written a code they'd email to me.
Yeah.
So they email you this code. You hold up a picture next to your face. Hold up the code. You write it down, hold it up next to your face, take a picture, send it back to them to prove your identity. And this only works to reactivate your account if you have some photos with your face in them. So just a heads up that it would be good if you have an Instagram account, maybe if you're a photographer and you have a lot of landscape photos or subject matter photos, you may want to have at least one in your feed that has your face, because that was the only way they were able to verify. And then they just reactivated the account without any explanation.
After a couple of days, right? Like you had to wait a couple of days.
Yeah, I think a few days after that. But it had been 3 months of and now all our followers were still there.
Yeah.
And we just all of a sudden reappeared as though nothing had happened.
I find it absolutely mind-boggling that a multi-billion-dollar company like Instagram and Facebook don't have a better way in which people can just reactivate their accounts if they've been erroneously kicked off.
Well, let's talk about activating and deactivating accounts for a minute, because it has been an eventful first week
of... Yeah, I had problems with my Facebook too.
Of 2021.
You're talking about...
For our neighbors to the south. So we record our podcast out of St. John, New Brunswick, which is in Canada. But of course... This past week, there was the siege at the Capitol building, and
by Trump supporters, it was insane.
It was.
We
watched with our jaws were dropping as we were watching what was happening, and then Trump just recently got his Twitter account revoked, and I think all the other social media platforms are following suit. So it really makes you realize that even somebody in a powerful position such as the President of the United States, how much they are, depending on social media to get their message out, and how that really cut off his communication with his supporters. So, I think
it's wild.
We 1,000% agree with the decision of those platforms.
He could listen to this podcast and learn a few things.
Yeah.
How to improve his life.
But anybody inciting violence, it makes sense that they would, cancel those accounts. So
absolutely, it's ridiculous, man. So what's number 17?
All right, so I wanted to just talk again. Instagram, we're back on there. So if you don't follow us already, search InfoQuench Podcast and you'll find us. Number 17. How you spend every day is how you spend your life. So again, these are tips for a better life and things to contemplate.
Yeah, it's true.
Well, it is true. I think oftentimes we forget that the little habits or the things the moments that make up our day string together to form what makes up our life. And with that, I think if we're thinking about that routinely, then we may
feel more valuable with our time. Like,
Exactly.
I find I've always been the kind of person who wants to budget their time a little bit better, but never has. Like I would love to be able to have like an hour of reading and then an hour of like playing video games with Huxley and an hour of like, but I just, nobody really does that, I don't think. Do they? Do they manage their time that way daily?
I think people are more prone to manage their time that way in a work environment, but not so much in their personal lives.
But should we? Should we do that in our personal lives?
Well, maybe.
To fit more into a day, because all we have are days.
Part of the relaxation for me in my personal life is that it isn't as structured as it is when I'm at the office, and not having a calendar with, certain meeting times and having, more flexibility and freedom to just go with the flow of the day. But I think that there is definitely value in setting aside time, designating pockets of time for things that you really, are important to you, whether they're, for instance, if you might set a portion of time in the morning to do your workout, or if you have a meditation practice, that may be an important thing to have a routine time so that doesn't get missed. But, other things, I don't know. I mean, we tried reading hours at night where we would sort of shut everything off, put, jazz on and just sit and read.
Yeah. I think that's an important thing to do for people in their lives, because like I said, all we have are just the days that we have. So we might as well cram as much as we can into the days. Although, having said that, there is an art in doing nothing, and there is a value in that as well. Just sitting on the couch and just chilling and letting your brain take a rest from the day. Anyway.
Yeah, so I like that one. It's interesting. It does make you think. And it also reinforces the idea of, tomorrow is never guaranteed. So make sure that today matters, that you make it matter.
Exactly.
Number 18, explaining problems is a good practice. Often in the process of laying out a problem, a solution will present itself.
That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. You having problems with the boom?
Yes. If you're hearing the mic is migrating towards me, so I feel like I'm continually readjusting it.
That? Okay, let me just try and fix it. If there's audio problems, oh well. We are just...
There we go.
We are who we are.
Jeff's on it. We are who we are. We record out of our living room, not in any
it's
studio.
Still not working, is it?
So
weird.
No, we're good. I'll just.
All right. Anyway,
I'll adjust
technical
it this
difficulties.
way.
We don't hide them. We tell you about them.
We do. This is our podcasts are never edited. It's raw material.
Yeah,
mostly because we don't have the time to edit. We just,
We're just a husband and wife duo doing the best we can in life,
Doing the best we can. So yeah, explaining problems is a good practice. And I think the reason for this is that a lot of times what we think is the problem truly isn't. So for instance, you may have a process or something in your place of work, and it seems flawed because it takes so long. In looking at the root causes of that process, you may eventually say, you know what, the true problem is just a lack of communication.
Right.
And we can easily solve that.
Or we need more communication.
Or sometimes the solution is just much simpler than what you think.
Which is what a lack of communication is, I guess, isn't it?
Right.
When you have a lack of communication, you need more. Right? Kind of like quick and fast. It's the same thing.
That's true.
Sorry, anyway.
Or a better method to communicate.
It's true.
Number 19. If something surprises you again and again, stop being surprised.
Okay. Yeah. Because it just becomes the norm.
It does. This one I think appeals probably or speaks to people who maybe are in a toxic relationship. So if somebody does something and continually they keep doing the same thing and you find it surprising or appalling, maybe it's time to really look at it and say, this is just how it is.
It is.
Or, it can apply to other circumstances too, where you just develop an expectation for something. Jeff's in the process of trying to make more adjustments. There we go.
Okay.
I think you got it.
Okay, don't move it.
Okay.
All right.
Don't move it. Don't touch it. So, all right. We're going off track here. Number 20.
Don't worry about it.
Things that aren't your fault
No
can
worries.
still be your responsibility.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I like this one because I think a lot of times
It's not my fault I got a parking ticket, but it's my responsibility to pay it.
Right. No.
Just
I don't
joking.
know.
I just wanted to see what you
No, that's not what it means at all.
I know. I know. You know, you're like, right.
No. No, well, I mean, I think a lot of times when something happens, when a mistake happens, people are really quick to point the finger because they want to point, it to who's at fault.
Yes, absolutely.
And they want it to not be them. Mm-hmm. But sometimes, regardless, again, I guess you think about this more in business, it can definitely fall under your realm of responsibility, regardless of whether or not it's your fault.
Yeah.
And you may still have the responsibility of that it happened, that you didn't prevent it, or that you just need to take the steps to correct it. So I like that one.
One I like that's probably not on the list is just using common sense.
Yes.
Honestly, if people just used common sense in their lives would be a heck of a lot better, it seems.
I think the problem is the definition of common sense differs from person to person.
But you know what I mean by it, and I think most people do. Like when you say use your common sense, it means just do the right thing. Do the thing that you probably should.
Right.
Yeah.
Number 21.
Yeah.
This one's a little morbid. Remember that you are dying.
Yeah. Why are you laughing? That is. Remember, you are dying.
Well,
then she starts laughing.
It goes a little bit with what we were saying. The way you spend your days and making sure that your days are important. But it's that idea that
really, we are dying.
From the moment you're born,
Yeah.
you're in the process of dying.
Oh, that is so positive, and true. It really is. Every breath we take, every move we make, we're dying.
But I'll
is that
be
how
watching,
the lyrics go to that police song?
I think that might be the.
That's too funny.
We have an episode of Misheard Lyrics if you want to check it out. So scroll back in the catalog because it's pretty funny.
Baking carrot biscuits, taking care of business.
But the idea of remember you are dying. I know I've heard statistics about how many times your heart beats on average in the course of a lifetime, or how many breaths will you take, and the idea that those things are finite. It just, again, reinforces that we need to make things count. We need to make our moments count. We need to make every heartbeat count. So,
Don't you find that we usually only do those kinds of things, though, when our life is threatened or, like, we have a near-death experience? Then we're like, oh, I better start living my life. A lot of people live their lives that way. They live their lives taking it for granted, and then they have something happen to them or somebody close to them that makes them think, oh, man, I better start living my life the way I want to.
You're right. I've seen people make major life changes because of that, because they've had that type of experience. Sometimes those changes are short-lived, though. I think a lot of times we forget. We get just bogged down with the day-to-day routine.
The trick is to not wait for something horrible like that to happen and just live your life as if something like that did happen.
Right. Just re-listen to this podcast every day.
Every day.
And remember that you are dying.
Make it a morning affirmation of death, or of your impending death. Anyway, sorry.
Number 22. Personal epiphanies feel great, but they fade within weeks. Upon having an epiphany, make a plan and start actually changing behavior. So this sort of ties into what we were just saying, that, things do fade within a few weeks. So you may have an aha moment, a realization of how you should change or what you should be doing differently in your life. But unless you actually take the steps to change the behavior, that stuff won't stick.
That is so funny that you said that, because earlier you did some kind of a weird motion and I was completely confused by it. And now I had an epiphany that you wanted me to put the screen back on. Something's fallen off the table. But you want me to put the screen back on so that we could see how much time we had left in our podcast so we don't go over.
That actually wasn't it at all.
Oh, really?
It's the fact that you continually lay your arm on the table, the desk, and you're moving the microphone up and down every time you shift.
Oh, you never. Well,
and knocking things
off the desk. How am I supposed to get that from your wonky eyes?
Well, you're supposed to read my eyes, my mind, my eyes and my mind.
So I shouldn't put my hands here then. Well, anyway, we can still see the screen now too. I'm sorry, we told you that there would be tangents.
Men are from Mars, women are from Venus.
I don't know, man. I think we're both from Crazy Town.
Number 23. Sometimes unsolvable questions like, what is my purpose? and why should I exist lose their force upon lifestyle fixes. So what this means is that sometimes...
They're all the same. The last
No.
3 are the same.
Okay, well, they're just, yes. Okay, they're the same. They're just those types of questions, those examples.
Okay.
Yes, and they may be paraphrasing one another, but in other words, the idea of this is that sometimes it really is just a matter of seeing your friends more or making simple... When they talk about lifestyle fixes, maybe you just really need to get a little bit more sleep. That can go a long way towards solving an existential crisis.
That's it. That's what I'm going to start doing. Just getting more sleep.
Well, I think the idea is just that
This list
sometimes
told me.
we think things are more complicated and we we start to kind of go down a bit of a rabbit hole when really we just need to do some simple things in our life to make it better, to make it happier. And that can be as much as just spending more time with people you love. And
Yeah. Or just, there's so many little simple things you can do in your life to make it better.
Number 24. It is easy for people to talk about their values, goals, rules, and lifestyle. But when people's actions contradict their talk, pay attention. So a lot of times people just don't practice what they preach.
So people say, oh yeah, I've been working out like every morning for 5 years straight, and then like you finally see them one morning and they're not working out, they're like eating a burger or something, then you know they're lying.
I guess that
Right?
makes sense.
I mean,
Well, yeah, but there'd be, I'm,
Okay, sorry. Sorry, go ahead.
oh my gosh, this podcast is going to be quite a little hodgepodge of, yeah.
This and
You
that.
completely throw me off. No, but I think it's really, people will often say things, say for instance, they value family life, but then they spend, they're working around the clock at the office. Or,
Oh yeah, that too.
They
You're right,
might
yeah.
say that they have a goal to
Yeah.
write a book, yet they don't dedicate any time
They've
to
never-
actually writing.
Or they could say they have a goal to like run so many miles a week, and they don't at all.
Right. Or they say that they're honest and they lie through their teeth.
That's right. Or we could just go on and
We
on.
could, but we won't. Number
Yeah.
25. Bored people are boring.
Bored people. Yeah, that's a definite yes.
Yes.
Yeah, but you know
So-
what? Unbored people can be pretty boring too.
Well, yes, if they only talk about themselves, that can be pretty boring.
If someone's unbored, what are they?
They're
they
they're busy. The
energetic?
people who there are people who have just a lot of things on the go,
Yeah.
right? They've got their hands in a lot of different projects, and they have a lot of interesting
Yeah.
things to talk about, a lot of life experience that they can draw upon. They've got interesting stories to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is if you're bored and your days are sort of monotonous,
Yeah. Then it gets a little.
then other people are going to find you boring.
Well, it's
Not that
true.
you need to care what other people think, but I think in terms of tips for a better life, it's just, try to find some things to keep your own life interesting.
No one wants to be around boring people.
Keep it interesting for yourself, if not for others.
Really, though, you and I are both sort of people who, what are they called? That absorb other people's moods.
Empaths.
Empath. We're both empaths, and so if we surrounded ourselves with boring people, how bored would we be?
That's right. So what we do is we try to find the most interesting people and suck that
That's right.
energy from them
That's right.
to avoid having to do anything ourselves.
Like the tentacles of an octopus.
Yeah. We listen to their stories and then tell them as though they're our own.
That's right. Yeah, we just adopt their lives. Kind of like what's that movie with Jim Carrey there? The one where his whole house or his whole life is being
Liar,
filmed.
Liar?
No.
The Truman Show.
The Truman Show. Wow, good, right on. It's like you were playing trivia on our phones.
It was like I was reading your mind.
Yeah. Wow.
Last episode I talked about tea not having a lot of flavor.
Yeah.
This is a tangent. I'm drinking this blueberry muffin tea now. It's by brand Higher Living. I got it at the Corn Crib, which is an
Corn
awesome
Crib.
store here in Uptown St. John in New Brunswick. But they have a few locations, and they carry a lot of great natural foods, health foods, natural products. And
Can you buy a
it's-
crib of corn there? I wonder.
I
Anyway,
wonder
Go ahead.
if they even sell corn.
Crib filled of corn.
But where would you put the baby?
I don't know. What a tangent. Anyways, what's the?
I was just going to say
Neck your
that
tea.
this tea actually has a ton of flavor. Of
Ton
all
of
the
flavor.
of all the teas I've probably ever had, this is the most
about the kit?
flavorful of those teas.
What about the tea kit you got?
It's the tea kit. Oh, that's a David's tea.
Does that have a lot of flavor?
Oh, it does. It's good. But this
Okay.
one just is exceptional.
Okay. Well,
It's an exceptional tea.
Is there caffeine in this tea?
No, it's caffeine free.
Oh, maybe I'll have to try it.
All right. Maybe you will. Number
You
26.
sound like a child there. There's no caffeine in it. I'll drink it.
Human mood and well-being are heavily influenced by simple things. And this ties into an early one as well. Exercise, good sleep,
Yeah.
light,
Yeah.
and being in nature.
Yeah,
and
we-
it's cheap to experiment with these. So go ahead if you're feeling
Yeah.
like your mood is a little low and you want to be a little
Absolutely.
happier, maybe add some more exercise in the routine or change it up if you're already working out. Make sure you're getting a good night's sleep. Making sure you're getting enough vitamin D or getting some daylight, or whether it's a light lamp. If you are using a light lamp, always check with your doctor before you use one. But and being in nature.
I was just gonna say, every single time that we've gone on a walk through, the woods and stuff as a family, it's been a shot in the arm that we needed, really.
Particularly during this pandemic.
Yeah, and do you remember though, like when we're actually on the walk, we always say we should do this more often, and then we don't. Or sometimes we do.
Well,
but-
we tend to save it for the weekends. It's hard this time of year because by the time you get off work, it's dark.
Yeah,
So there's that.
that's a lot of really good tips. Is that the last one?
No, this is
Oh.
the last one. This one is a little complicated, but I think it's an important one
Okay,
because
I don't understand. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
you know how a lot of times people will say they'll start complaining about something and they'll say, "Well, I shouldn't complain." A lot of people have it worse than I do.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So this tip is, if other people having it worse means that you can't be sad, then that would mean other people having it better than you would mean you can't be happy.
No, that's interesting.
And we would never say that. We would never say,
Reversal.
I can't be happy because I shouldn't be because so-and-so is rich, or
Yeah.
that person has a better life than I do for, X reason.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
It's funny when when you flip it to the reverse and it doesn't make sense. It does put a new perspective on that idea. Just because somebody does have, maybe problems that are more significant than what you can, perceive your own to be, it doesn't make your feelings any lesser. You have the right to feel how you feel, and it doesn't necessarily have to be compared to anybody else.
Yeah, no, I really agree with that one, and I've never really had that thought before, like the way that one was set up, reversed. It's really interesting.
So I just want to remind people that this list of 27 tips for a better life, some of them were tips, some of them were more thoughts, but they came from lesswrong.com. They have a more comprehensive list of 100 that I just sort of curated down to those 27, and we did the first episode, part 1. So if you haven't listened to that, you can go back. And since we have a little extra time, I want to talk about dry January.
Dry January, yes.
I think with this week happening and all the chaos, I saw a lot of posts on social media, people saying,
That's it.
dry January is
over.
canceled.
Yeah.
And just the concept of dry January is fascinating to me. We often hear two people do in the fall. They'll do an October. Or a sober.
Or Inktober. They'll draw a picture every day in October. It's got nothing to do with drinking, but they do that. They do those things.
Yes, they do. They do different things in different months.
They do. But we're talking about drinking here and not drinking.
And not drinking, or sober
'Cause
September.
Amy and I are in the middle of, well, it's not the middle of the month, but we started.
We're a third of the way through January
Yeah,
for dry January. So, and I think the one in the fall people usually do as a reset after the summer, and I think dry January's become very popular because it's a reset after the holidays.
Yeah.
And people do it for different reasons. They may be starting, a new exercise routine and want to have that extra energy. They may be starting on looking at their diet and their nutrition and physical health and want to get, a head start on that. So they may figure cutting out alcohol and those extra calories would be a good start through the month of January. Some people just want to detox and clean their system, give their liver a little bit of a rest after the holidays.
I think that's always a really good thing to do, though. Is just take a break from it and clear your mind and clear your agenda of drinking. You know?
Well, and I think some people too, although they may not want to admit it, just want to prove to themselves that they can stop drinking for 30 days and it's not a significant issue. Or
See, my
31 days in
relationship with
January.
alcohol is I can take it or leave it, to be honest. I drink every once in a while, like not now because it's October.
No, it's not.
No, it's Jan. Jan, don't drink. What's it called?
If your name is Jan, don't drink.
Jan, don't drink.
It's dry January. You could call any month
Which
dry,
reminds
but-
me, can you imagine, Amy, and listeners, loyal listeners, can you imagine having the name Karen in this day and age?
I know.
Wouldn't that be horrible?
It would be.
Karens get like...
Unless you think like a Karen, and then you'd be like, I'm aptly named.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I don't even know what I was saying, but anyway.
I think do you think people just choose October because it's like, October sounds awesome, and then they get to culminate with a big drunk on Halloween?
Yeah, I think that's exactly
I think
it.
that's true too.
Yeah.
What was an interesting thing that happened though for me this year was right around Christmas, one of my friends on Facebook posted about a book called The Alcohol Experiment by Annie Grace, and it's essentially an experiment that you do where you go alcohol free for 30 days, and so I thought this would be a cool thing to do for January. And what it is it's an interesting book. There's an online group as well. I didn't do the whole online community thing.
Yeah.
But it really just involves doing, a little bit of reading about alcohol and exploring, our relationship with alcohol as a society, and our personal relationship with alcohol. There's you can do journaling or questions depending on how deep you want to go, or you can just skim it and just get a better idea of it. But there's some really interesting things about the idea of how alcohol, even though it's an addictive substance, I think we're all aware that it's not the best thing for us physically in general. I mean, there are some benefits with red wine and such, but it's something that is ingrained in our culture. Whether you're at a baby shower, even church or most social functions will have an alcohol as a component.
Did you say at church? Drinking at church?
Well, yes, during communion and they have wine.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant drinking at church, like people who have problems
we don't spend a lot of time at church.
No, I know.
But it's just essentially though most events, most social functions have alcohol as a component.
Well, we never really think about why we drink. Period. Whether you have a problem with it or not.
Well, one of the things that the book explores early on is the idea of, when you first tasted alcohol, did you like it? And for most people, I'm going to say probably not, unless you had like a sweet kiwi cooler, Canada cooler, something that was, laced with a lot of sugar to mask the taste of alcohol. But it's something that...
It's an acquired taste.
Yeah, because it is essentially, not something you should ingest in large quantities. It's something you have to acquire taste for. So just, it's, things like that it just makes you explore that relationship with it. And the idea of, if somebody says that they're doing, well, I think a dry January is pretty common, but if somebody says I don't drink or I quit drinking, a lot of times there's a judgment there immediately.
There should never be a judgment.
No, there isn't, but I think a lot of people would say, "Oh, are you an alcoholic?"
Yeah, I know.
Whereas if you said you quit smoking, people would just congratulate you.
Yeah.
There wouldn't be that level of judgment. So anyways, if you are doing if you're doing dry January, that might be a book you want to check out because I think there's some interesting things to contemplate around.
What's it called again? Tell our listeners.
It's called The Alcohol Experiment by Annie Grace.
Annie Grace, right? Okay.
Yeah, so fairly, I just bought you can get a Kindle edition on Amazon and check it out if that's something that interests you. But it's fascinating read.
I wanted to say just quickly that it's nice to be back making podcasts with you, Amy, and for our loyal listeners.
Yes, and
thank you so much.
In the next one, we promise there won't be as much fighting with our microphone.
Oh, no, it's just part of the biz, baby. Part of the biz.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening.
And remember, you can catch up on past episodes at infoquench.com.
Or just about anywhere else you get your podcasts.
Be sure to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.
And help spread the word about InfoQuench.
Till next time.